Miracle Boy Boxing, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, the one and only Hosting Cruz, bringing you another exciting edition of boxing. Don't forget to hit and to like, subscribe to my channel. It's always greatly appreciated. Stay tuned. Miracle Boy Boxing. I am your host, Hosting Cruz, and ladies and gentlemen, I am here to talk about one of the greatest boxers to ever put on a pair of gloves and one of the greatest defensive fighters, boxers to ever step foot in the ring. He passed away in 2005. He started his professional career in 1958. This guy has a sensational record, guys. A total of 136 fights, 117 victories, 4 losses. 4 losses out of 117 fights. Got 14 draws, 1 no contests, and 14 KOs. So he was not a big puncher. But he had a respectable punch. 14 KOs, he got guys that hits harder than the records show, but 14 KOs with 117 wins, yeah, it shows that you ain't got much pop in your punch. But the power didn't matter to him. And it didn't matter to get him 117 victories, so he didn't need a KO. Why? Because he was such a defensive master, man. Excellent counterpuncher, and excellent defense. We've seen some excellent defensive fighters throughout the years in boxing. Sweet Pea Whitaker, Willie Pep, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Ivan Ironboy Calderon, Wilfredo Benitez, the Radar, El Raral. And out of all those fighters I mentioned, Mr. Nicolino Locche out of Argentina, in my opinion, based on what I've seen and what I've read about him, he is pound for pound the best defensive fighter of all time in the history of this sport called boxing. If you look him up, you'll see what I'm saying. This guy, it doesn't matter who he fought, he made them look like idiots. He made everyone look like they were shadowboxing. Back then was 15 rounds, so imagine you're fighting this guy for 15 rounds. You're throwing everything at him. You're throwing everything in the kitchen sink, and he's just slipping and ducking everything you throw at him for 15 rounds. That's got to be frustrating as hell. And this guy did not look anywhere near a fight as a fighter. He did not have the looks of a fighter. Talk about underestimating your opponent. Because he had that look. He did not look like a typical fighter. He did not have the best physique. Hairy chest. Bald spot on top of his head. He definitely was like an opponent that would surprise you. Surprise you the real way.
Nicolino Locche's
once that bell rings, you'll be like, wait a
was
minute.
an incredibly impressive 18-year
Is this the same guy I'm fighting?
Nicolino
Because
Locche
when you
was
see
a man
him,
of many contradictions.
before you even fight him, you'll be like,
so take
that's
one
my
look at
opponent?
him, you'd think him a brawler, like if Rocky
doesn't look so
Marciano
tough.
was actively dying of polio, or if prime
And when
Danny
that bell
DeVito
rings,
tried to chisel himself into
he's giving you
championship condition.
A hell of a fight, and not only a hell of a fight, he's
had a
making you
hairline that
frustrated
began
as
its
hell. He's
retreat
giving you,
during the Eisenhower administration.
you're punching air
Waits until
the
you
majority of
see
the
him
fight. For
punch.
15 rounds, you'll be punching air while he's touching you, tapping you, countering you
either.
all night
He
long.
was always accurate, but his
Uppercut,
offense
body
was
shot.
about as basic as Ugg boots and pumpkin spice.
This guy,
he had a
we say
consistent
Floyd
jab.
Mayweather is the creator of the shoulder roll. Floyd Mayweather Sr. He came up with that shoulder roll.
Used the left
Pass it
hook
on
as
Floyd.
a reliable changeup.
Floyd Jr. No.
His
Nicolino
right
Locche
sprinkled in, but only at point-blank range.
was the creator of the shoulder roll.
Rarely with any real
He
weight
created the
committed.
shoulder roll.
He was the type
got,
of puncher
besides
that
ducking
couldn't
and
crack
slipping,
an egg with a running
He created a
start.
shoulder roll.
A
There's videos on him on
natural-born
YouTube. Look it up.
with hands of sponge.
And this is the guy that's been fighting
His
way
career
before
KO ratio
Floyd's time. Floyd
sits a
Senior's time.
shade over 10%.
Professional debut in
There were few things
1958.
in this world he
And this
hated
guy's
more
doing the shoulder
than
roll.
training.
Duck, besides
fighter
ducking
still
and
has
slipping
to
all that
make
stuff. So
weight.
this guy, Nicolino
So
Locche,
rather than road work
out of
or
Argentina,
sparring as a means
former
of
world
regulating
champion,
his weight,
lineal,
he used
and
cigarettes.
WBA world champion at 140
In his
pounds.
prime, he smoked
El
nearly 50
Intocable, the
death sticks a
Untouchable
day.
is his nickname. Because
Sometimes
if you look at his
corner even
videos,
gave
that's
him
what
a
he's
puff
all
or
about.
two between rounds. You might
He's more
think
known for his
inhaling a
defense.
forest fire worth of tobacco
Excellent
might
defense,
mess
man.
with a fighter's cardio.
Amazing how he could just
It was a problem
slip
he
and duck
avoided
punches
by doing as little as humanly possible
all
in
throughout
the
the
ring.
fight. And he makes it look so easy, and he looks so relaxed in there.
Now you might be wondering how a balding chain smoker with the punching power of a
It's
malnourished
crazy.
toddler
If you watch his videos, you'll see how stupid he makes his
who
opponents
loathed
look.
training
Tough guys.
made it
Guys
as
that
a
can punch,
professional
world
fighter.
champions, all that stuff.
How a man with such terrible
he's
habits
making them
and
miss.
bizarre attributes
Like if
managed
they're
to
in the
make it
ring by
onto
themselves.
this channel.
It is crazy.
But it's not how many fights
Unbelievable.
he had. It's who and how
Talent
he
this guy
fought.
had. And the craziest thing about it, about this whole thing, about him, was that
No
he
more
was a
ironically
smoker.
accurate than
He
El
used to smoke
Intocable
cigarettes in the
Nicolino
corner in between
Locche.
rounds. You know, like Ricardo
From the
Mayorga.
province of Mendoza, in
Mayorga
Argentina,
would do it before
he was
fights
fighting
and
all
after the
around
fight.
South
He's
America,
not. Mayorga
getting
would
in
never
the ring whenever
smoke
and where he could. By the
in
late
between
1960s,
rounds. I've never seen Mayorga did that. This guy
Nicolino
did.
is a fixture of the Estadio de Luna Park in the capital city
So imagine,
of Buenos Aires.
He's making you
and
punch here
selling
for
out
15
nearly
rounds.
every weekend. Just by
He's got
standing
117 wins, 4
Nicolino
losses,
was
14
hilarious
draws,
to
and he
watch.
did all of that with smoking in between rounds.
because
Wow.
it didn't matter who
What a
stepped through the
fighter.
ropes with him. They were now the butt
So imagine if he was
of
not
the
smoking.
joke.
And the thing is with the smoking, he used to smoke just to drop weight.
Locche's
Nicolino
defense turned some of the scariest
Locche,
punchers
out of
and most
Argentina,
skilled boxers
140
into
pounds,
unwitting stooges
former world
in a
champion,
slapstick
unified,
comedy
former
show.
lineal
He
champion, and
made
WBA champion
world-class
at 140
athletes
pounds.
fall on their face of their own
El
volition.
Intocable, the Untouchable, this guy could not be hit at all.
Everyone
If you
had
thought
a good
Pernell
laugh.
Whitaker,
Nobody
Mayweather,
got hurt.
Wilfred Benitez were defensive masters, and Willie Pep,
Nicolino Locche picked
I
up
don't think
another
these
win,
guys can
or at
touch this
least
guy.
a draw,
Nicolino
which was
Locche.
far more frequent in his
if you
place
know,
and
if you
time
don't know
in
about him, you
history.
know about him now. And I recommend you to watch his videos on
While film
YouTube.
of him is a rare,
You'll be
precious thing, there is one
Highly
performance,
impressed.
one of the rare
and
times
amazed.
he crossed the equator.
You know, we all thought that Mayweather was the creator of the shoulder roll, and he's
like the
not.
Hope Diamond sitting on a
He never
sidewalk
was.
littered
This
with
guy
cigarette butts. It's arguably
But
the
he's
most
so
perfect
he was
performance
so back in the day
history.
that we didn't even know.
It was against Paul Takeshi
Until
Fuji.
I bumped into him about
Paul
maybe sometime
Fuji
last
is
year.
arguably the most devastating puncher.
My dad was looking
in
on YouTube, and he's always watching something with boxing, and his video popped up,
anything he
and the
hit,
caption reads,
he broke.
"The defensive wizard, wizard, something like that." With
He was a raw physical
my dad got
specimen
curious,
whose heavy hands and savage
played the
intensity
video, and he
took
saw
him
that he
all
was
the
doing
way
the
to
shoulder
the
roll, and he was like,
140-pound
"Wow, we all thought
championship.
Mayweather was doing the shoulder roll. He first created the shoulder roll."
When he
And
met
it's-
Fuji
and
in front of
Nicolino
his
Locche,
home
man,
crowd in
he did it.
Tokyo, Locche
He was the
already
creator.
racked up 89
First guy to
wins
do that style.
when he gets his crack at the 140-pound champion.
Yeah, man, amazing defensive talent, amazing, the best I've seen in all my years of watching boxing.
Takeshi had a terrible
This guy
habit.
is pound for pound #1 defensive fighter in the history of the sport.
It's the one thing
Nicolino
you
Locche.
absolutely cannot do against
136
a
fights,
defensive genius
117
like
wins,
Locche.
4 losses, 14 draws, 1 no contest, 14 KOs. He was inducted into
Takeshi
the International
Fuji
Boxing Hall of
threw
Fame
every single
2005.
punch as hard as humanly possible.
And there you have it. Miracle by Boxing,
They were
guys.
wild
I am
and
your
wild
host, Hostin
with a
Cruz,
reckless weight transfer behind
and
it.
I'll see you guys in my next video.
For a man of
Peace.
Locche's defensive acumen,
Don't forget to like and subscribe to my
reflexive
channel,
fluidity,
guys.
It
Forgot
was
to
like
put that
playing
one in there.
tag with an angry blind man.
Peace.
It's like watching somebody try to play whack-a-mole with a warhammer. He'd draw back a mighty blow and inevitably miss by a millimeter or a mile. Locche fought like a mobile Maginot Line. The sheer depth of defense he displayed looked like they were doing a fast-forwarded photo shoot for a treatise on defensive boxing. It starts with his stance. He stood heavy over his front foot, with his feet far closer together than most. His heels almost never touched the canvas. It allowed him to drop his weight and upper body to get under the overhands. He kept his hands by his cheekbones, but only when actually felt threatened. He had a beautiful ability to get around and under punches. It makes you wonder what the Spanish word for peekaboo is. On the back foot, he adapted a version of the shoulder roll defense you'd swear he picked up in a back alley in Philadelphia. Fuji's wild right hands seemed to simply phase through Locche, slipped right off with such an imperceptible margin, you're never really sure if he got hit or not. But he definitely landed a counter or caused Fuji to fall on his face. He had the mobility and elusiveness of the greased-up deaf guy.
Oh, this is my favorite event. Catch the greased-up deaf guy.
Go!
You're never gonna catch me.
He ran through everything on the move list to make Takeshi Fuji look like he was on Takeshi's castle. Fuji showed up for a slugfest and got slapboxed. Fuji was serious to a fault. Every punch had horrible intentions on it, and that's why Locche made almost every punch miss. Fuji's reckless weight transfer was a massive telegraph. It tapped out a code that traveled the wires of Nicolino's nicotine-fueled nervous system. It reached his muscles, which react with the speed of electricity. By the time the punch is out, Locche is out of the way. Because Fuji was so deadly serious meant every outlandish miss wore him down all the more. It's a hilarious irony that a man so elegant in the protection of his body in the ring was smoking like dying young was his retirement plan. It makes you wonder how much nicotine it takes to qualify as a PED. It makes you wonder how much of his in-ring brilliance came about as an adaptation to his complete lack of power. How much did his complete relaxation make up for his smoker's cardio? If you ever require an example of the phrase, "styles make fights," no better one exists than this. Fuji was only ever stopped twice in his career. Nicolino only ever finished 14 men in 135 fights. But because Fuji tried so hard, He got suckered in and ground down on the inside by skill and volume. The lessons we can learn from the Argentine greats are many. Nicolino died of heart failure at the age of 58. Not even he could dodge that forever. Probably don't smoke, kids. But in a sport when men die every year, the bias against the defensive masters over the ages becomes less and less defendable. Showing up to a fight without a good defense is like going to a job site without a hard hat or steel toes. Defense is boxing's workplace safety issue, and in that sense, there was no more model employee than Nicolino Locche.